This is Luke chapter 21, verses 5 to 24. And while some were speaking of the temple, how it was adorned with noble stones and offerings, Jesus said, "As for these things that you see, the days will come when there will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down." And they asked him, "Teacher, when will these things be? And what will be the sign when these things are about to take place?" And he said, "See that you're not led astray. For many will come in my name, saying, 'I am he,' and 'the time is at hand.' Do not go after them. And when you hear of wars and tumults, do not be terrified, for these things must first take place, but the end will not be at once." Then he said to them, "Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There'll be great earthquakes, and in various places famines and pestilences. And there'll be terrors and great signs from heaven. But before all this, they will lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and prisons, and you'll be brought before kings and governors for my name's sake. This will be your opportunity to bear witness. Settle it therefore in your minds not to meditate beforehand how to answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom which none of your adversaries will be able to withstand or contradict. You'll be delivered up even by parents and brother and relatives and friends, and some of you they will put to death. You'll be hated by all for my name's sake, but not a hair of your head will perish. By your endurance, you will gain your lives. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation has come near. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let those who are inside the city depart, and let not those who are out in the country enter it, for these are days of vengeance to fulfill all that is written. Alas for women who are pregnant and for those who are nursing infants in those days. There'll be great distress upon the earth and wrath against the people. They will fall by the edge of the sword and be led captive among the nations. And Jerusalem will be trampled underfoot by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled." Well, some were admiring the temple buildings. We read in Matthew's biography of Jesus that these were disciples of the Lord Jesus. Rather than admiring it with them, Jesus told them that that temple would not last. It would be thrown down, not one stone left on another. That impressive building would be destroyed. Well, understandably, the disciples wanted to know when this would happen and what sign there'd be to show them that it was about to happen. Jesus, in his reply, makes it clear that it would be after he has gone. He told them many times that he would suffer and die and then rise again from the dead, and he would go back to heaven. But he would come back again. They've been told all this. They should have known it. The Lord Jesus then tells them what they should expect before he returns. There'll be a terrible time when nation will rise against nation. There'll be wars, tumults, earthquakes, famines, pestilences, plagues. It will be a terrible time when terrors and signs from heaven, what these signs actually are is not explained to us. What the Lord Jesus is talking about here will happen in the future. It hasn't happened yet. But then he goes back in time. Before all this, he says, before all this. And he speaks about what would happen in the next few years during the lifetime of many of these disciples, leading up to the destruction of the temple and of Jerusalem itself. They, the disciples, will be persecuted. They'd be tried by the Jewish leaders and thrown into prison. They'd be brought before kings and governors because they were followers of Christ. Both Jewish leaders and Gentile, that's non-Jewish, Gentile leaders would be against them. If we were to read Luke's next book, the Acts of the Apostles, we would see all this happening. But they weren't to worry about what to say when accused. but to leave it to God to give them wisdom. Sadly, even some would be handed over by close relatives to those who wanted to kill them. Some would die, but not a hair of your head will perish. Well, that's an expressive way to say that they were completely secure forever, for eternity, even if they were put to death. The Lord Jesus then talks about the siege and destruction of Jerusalem. The events that Jesus describes here happened in the year 70, some 40 or so years after this. The Lord Jesus warns his disciples the surrounding of Jerusalem by armies will be a signal to them to leave and flee to the mountains. The people have been given every opportunity to accept their Messiah, but they'd rejected him. There'll be great distress, and there will be anger against Israel shown by the Romans, who would destroy Jerusalem and slaughter so many of the people. Many others would be taken captive, and Israel would cease to exist as a nation. Jerusalem would then be trampled underfoot by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles come to an end, and then the Lord Jesus returns to rule. Well, here's something for us to think about. What the Lord Jesus said would happen to Jerusalem did happen. And we can be sure that all he says about the future will take place.